One.
I'd like to call our second budget workshop meeting to order. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This will be our second budget workshop, and Tom, we're back again.
Again.
Tom
Okay,
Robinson,
I'm gonna
please.
start on page 57. Public Works Director budget. So this budget is made up of two employees. The Public Works Director and the Administrative Assistant to the Director. The current Director had resigned in November of 2024. So we want to thank Ryan O'Halpin for all his dedicated work. The Director position still remains vacant. He does, the Director, Ryan, still does assist us for the projects on a part-time basis, which is we appreciate. Some of the increase in this budget is for the contractual obligation inspected salary requirements for this position. Page 59, Highway Department. Highway Department has 9 full-time employees. One of the areas here that keeps going up, we spoke about this during the monthly budget. The monthly budget reports is service contracts. We have some speed signs. We have some contracts on fire alarm systems and just general increases to costs. Also, we're trying to do an attempt on some service contracts for overhead doors. That's probably what to work on that again in next fiscal year. One of the other areas that we've increased is 6501 road materials. And that was an increase of about $5,000, which is an increase in cost of materials, probably not as high as they've actually gone up, but trying to make a reasonable increase there. But those materials do continue to rise all across the board. And that's one of the big areas that that department works with. We're also seeing increases within equipment supplies as well as when we make those type of purchases.
Tom, can I ask one question before we go on?
Sure.
For traffic signals.
Mhm.
I know before we talked about that, the last one we were responsible for was the one in front of Gildersleeve School, and the state was supposed to take that over. Have they not taken that over yet?
I think the traffic signal in Gildersleeve School, we still are responsible for that. They're not taking that over.
Okay.
Yeah. Page 61. So page 61 has a mechanic and an assistant mechanic. There's been some change in personnel in this, so probably some slight, like where you would have seen a bump due to payroll, it's kind of a sort of flattish. Slight increases in equipment repairs, but otherwise kind of keeping it flat here. Some overtime, the guys have been working more overtime, working through some of the backup issues as we had people out, as well as they also work on some of during some of the storms they work for us. Page 63. Page 63 is always a challenging budget. It's very the director does a great job of managing this budget, but it's there's a lot of ancillary type projects that come in and out. Anytime, seems like the state lately has requested a lot on grant applications. It's a lot more detailed kind of than it used to be. There's a lot of design requirements up front. And there's some complexities on those. We're trying to set some of those monies aside, either through, so we've seen them through supplemental appropriations. We also see them through things like sidewalks, non-grant, road materials that we set aside in capital. but there's also quite a few that are been coming through that we've been utilizing either we've been using the miscellaneous line item for things associated. There's a lot of upfront work on the grant that was associated with the riverfront access. That was much more challenging than I think anyone thought. Once we were able to obtain the grant, there was a lot of things that before they would even more or less allow the grant to continue were outside of the project. There's been some things with the airline trail that we've worked on. And then there's been also some steep applications that have been worked on in a preliminary stage. So a lot of early on project work. When the project is ready to roll and completed, generally those move over into those capital areas that we talked about, or if it has its own fund, it goes into its own fund. But and then there's just general engineering activity that's done for the planning department and or the public works department. So the slight jump here in this budget, but this is one of those ones that we probably could keep, increasing in time with the continuation of these types of projects. Street lighting. Street lighting had remained pretty constant in the past. The Eversource continues to raise their distribution rates, and also our contract for our contracted rate expires in December, so we have to go out and try to do to get that as well. It's not the greatest time, but that's when the contract expires. But we'll keep working with our vendors and our consultants on that to try to get a good supply rate. And then it's the distribution to us. That's where Eversource kind of dictates those numbers, and it's been well documented throughout this year within the press and everyone that their rates had jumped quite a bit. So we had kind of saved on some of the LED lighting, but in this one, we're a little concerned of the continual cost distribution. Next page is 67. This is the grounds department. This is a salary of four full-time employees, with 10% allocated of the full-time ground supervisor that the Board of Ed covers. So you were seeing just salary increases that are contractual. Slight increase in equipment repair and rental just due to the cost of the repair on some of the aged equipment. Really, it's really not too much more than that. A little bit increase on equipment purchases. 37 is town building and maintenance. Town building and maintenance is made up of 3 full-time employees. We do see a continuation of service contracts continues to increase here, and a lot of that relates to HVAC across the buildings. Some of them we allocate to as many of the buildings as we can. When those get excessive, it comes back into this budget. One of the things we've always done is we always charge telephone to this budget. We've had some success in the past with a long-time state contract that we had jumped on. It's been a long time now that we were on that. Those contracts have seemed to have expired and not been renewed as the state appears to have gone to different types of technology. So that has been a challenge in the past year. A lot of the numbers have fallen off. Frontier and Comcast have come in with increased rates, some almost they're very high. The rates aren't they're not really being very competitive with what they're doing. It's surprising. We continue to work with Frontier. Some of the ones we were able to drop some of their services, but those we're seeing some hits on those, and we're seeing that we've seen that in the budget this year. So we'll keep on working on that. Electricity. This is another one where we're expected to see some increases again due to the cost of electricity, and custodial supplies continue to rise. And so there's some of the hits in this area. So we've done well on some of these areas in the past. Some of these areas are coming to head now, where we continue to work with and review the contracts and pricing that we do get. But if there aren't state contracts, it becomes very challenging. Page 71, snow removal. This was another budget that it really is dependent on the year. I'm pretty sure this year we are over. I don't have that number with me, but I know I saw that. Definitely on the overtime and pretty close. And so this is one of those ones that we could continue to increase with that. We're trying to just go up some number here on the overtime percentage. Road materials, we definitely need, went up the state contract for the salt did go up quite substantially last year. We're not expecting it to, go back down either. So we've jumped it somewhat again, trying to keep it within a 5% increase there. But it's really a basis of storms, costs, and how that contract comes in on the state contract. But that's what we're going with on this number right now. All right, so that's really the general fund expenditures associated with the public works. We hit all the other categories. There are some transfers associated with. So if you go to page 107, there's a transfer to the building maintenance fund of 82,000. We'll get into that. There's a transfer into resource recovery for 228,496. That was 107. Sure. And then Parks and Rec will have a transfer of 307,620. And then capital is the 813,000 for town, and board is 157,000. Want to move into those other areas now? Okay. So sewer, guess we can kind of go with the expenses first. That's up about a 4.36%. That would be 115. That would be it's up about 4.36%. We did leave capital at the level that we had funded it before. There is no debt in this fund. We've left equipment purchases at the similar level. I'm kind of working my way backwards off of 115 here. Electricity had gone up by, we're expecting those increases in electricity. Utilities, slight increase in the municipal insurance, slight increase in the telephone. Then we going the service contracts. I see the dip there from expense to budget is in 24. We didn't do like the TVing and the cleaning that we normally do. So there's normally like a 35 to 40,000 to 45, and in this budget, it's like a $45,000 number. That's the TVing for sections of the system. So they'd done a bunch of them years in a row, and then that's something that should get picked back up probably again in fiscal 26, if not in 25. But that's why you'll see like the 75,000, and you see the difference, and you're like, why would you be going up? We're going up for the anticipated expected cost increase. I think we were floating around a 35 number before. There's a thought out there that it's possible in the 45 to 50 range now, but we haven't bid that service in a while. So that's the differential in that number there. Going up, it's more or less salaries and benefits. There's a possibility of change in personnel. There's possibility of not changing personnel. So we're kind of like a commingled option here, assuming that there's possibility of a person may retire. So some of those costs for pension got transitioned to the general fund, but just in case the salary line is kind of kept whole in case there is no change in personnel. So we'll see as that comes forward. So that was a total of a 4.3 6% increase overall. The revenues, our budget just more or less to, we left the user fees the same. The user charges, or what does go up. So, you know, again, this is another budget where there's a possibility of, you know, if we were to expend fully, there's a possibility that we would need to, you know, have an increase in fees there. As you see, we had strong collections. We had, you know, had to put a lot of pressure on people that had not paid because of COVID. We were allowed to do that in 23. So we came back and got a lot of paybacks in 23. 24 was a little less because it was just more or less getting back to the regular activity there. But as you can see, if you compare that to what is budgeted, that would be a challenge to get there without a rate increase. Page 117. So in this budget, we're trying to expand the payroll here. We only have 2 employees full-time. We had budgeted for a part-time employee. We did not hire that person in fiscal 25 as there was a requirement to add debt that was not necessarily expected to develop the well. So in an effort to add the debt, there was a requirement of debt payments in 25 that were not budgeted. I think that was the main reason, as well as fiscal 24 did come back in a deficit position when the year came in. So that you'll see the activity that you're seeing there in the personnel is more or less a full year person added in. The jump in overtime is just that, is assuming that you would have a full year person working overtime, water main breaks and things of that nature. That's not, you know, for the current team of people to be like, oh, well, we can work a ton more overtime. But that would be assuming, you know, that there was a third person working. The other areas that you see it increases in the MDC, there was the director had noted there was about a 3% increase in the rates, 2.8%. And then also there's a possibility of a $50,000 increase when we do continue work on the rate negotiated contract. I guess there's some amount where there's a potential where they would maybe require of around $100,000 of an additional pay in on some unused monies right now. So that was where some of that increase was potential. Not the full amount, but potentially. So we increased that to 875. Turn the page to 118. There was an increase in the water supplies. We see that there's continual cost increases in supplies in the water department, whether it being just the various items that are needed in the daily function of the system. You'll also see here in 831 and 83002, that's your debt payment that's coming on. So that would be the full year debt payment. In 25, there's a lesser payment required. But in 26, this would be what the full year debt payment looks like. And then also there's the clean water notes that we've had from before. We did leave the 250 for the recurring transfer out to the non-recurring. There was an increase in the workers' comp to the new person. So going back on that, there's a 12% increase in the expenses. To come up with that, if you look, there would definitely need to be either an increase within meter charges, which is more like a flat rate that we do per charge, or there would be some need potentially of an increase in metered sales if and when that other employee is to be added. As I don't believe that you could generate that much revenue from where we're at right now. I mean, as you can see, the past years, the highest we got was 108.1. You know, and this budget would need a 1.239 million of meter sales. And again, it's we did a slight increase on the meter charge estimate, assuming, and then if there would have to be either a meter sale increase or a meter charge increase. But that number is just making that number be what the number needs to be to equal the expenditure amount.
None of this includes Elmcrest or Brainerd Place coming online. So,
Yeah, there's a possibility there could be some, potential revenue stream from there.
Yep.
Obviously, and that could be a positive item as well. I think some of that, maybe some of the meter charge we were thinking was going to go for that, but yeah, right there, the past history does not include it. Now, the only issue would be is like if there was additional expenditures, which based on the amounts, you wouldn't necessarily think there would be on the expense side for at least for the water. We'd probably be able to meet the taker pays that we would have if we had that additional usage. But yeah, I don't believe that would be in there at this point. No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so you, just to clarify, I know that, so there's that possibility. I know that at least in the negotiating position, right, has indicated that they may want to start trying to charge for the reserve, right? Basically monetize that reserve, the reserve capacity. So you've put some extra money in the budget to account for that, if that were to come to fruition.
Half
And
of what the
Half of what was, potentially. And we're not counting any incremental because we haven't seen a history yet on what's going to happen with Elmcrest, so we don't know that. Yeah, no, I'm just clarifying because that's,
those are two big.
I know
factors.
we'll be looking at those numbers, and then I know that we had put some of the costs to do some of the pre-work from the well. I can't remember when we passed that bond request, if we were looking at the fact that, I know when we put the 6 million up, that part of that was to include some of those costs as well. Are we able to reimburse it all or basically offset any of those based on the bond that was approved?
Well, the
When
amounts that
we
came in were, that was a transfer in from the general fund.
Yeah,
So
And-
that's a general fund money that came in and transferred in.
yeah,
So those likely would be paid by the general fund. And then this is the debt that's been added through a debt deal with Webster Bank.
Yeah.
And then, once we get to the next phase, if we were to get to the next phase, it would be the cost of the continuation, definitely. And whether there's a recoupment, that's yet to be seen. It's maybe possible, but probably unlikely on the general fund side.
okay.
And if you have the debt already out there, you're not gonna probably re-debt it. It's the
Yeah,
debt is reasonable.
Yeah, because I know we had talked about that, if you remember, right? Because the well was going to be 1.2 million, and we knew we were going to have to sort of incur a certain amount of debt to cover that and front that. But when we put the $6 million bond out, the $6 million bond included that 1.2. So that was part of the thinking, is that we, in the short term, would have to do something, and then in the longer term, it would end up as part of the bond, but we'll have to look at the mechanics of that. I'm just trying to figure out how we can manage some of the offsets so that we're gonna have sort of a short-term problem, in terms of with the budget, as we have some of this work going on. We have the short-term problem. And then obviously the cost model, and once we have the well online, dramatically shifts, right, in the favor of the ratepayers, right? Things should get less expensive, so I'm trying to see what we can do in terms of not jacking the rates up, just to have to lower them again. We'll talk about the mechanics of all that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think that it needs to be at least reviewed,
Yep.
by the Water Commission and just to determine that if there is an ability, again, if you wanted to go full board in with hiring a person, right now fall in. And also do the water deals that may need to go in the short term. You know what I mean? I think it would be, it would be, we also want to see what's coming in from these outsourced sources
Mhm.
that are different users. So hopefully that'll generate revenues that we did or didn't expect in. But you wouldn't want to go too long without doing something on some of the rates if you wouldn't want to continue to build a deficit position and then have to try to go and get additional debt, bonding and debt, because it doesn't paint the picture that you'd like to paint for the fund.
Oh, no, absolutely. I know. I remember we worked very hard from getting that debt down from
Yeah.
near $1 million down to 80,000, and then it bumped back up again, which was, bumped back up about 50,000, I think, 54 or whatever, which was a little painful to see, but I got you.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, page 122 is the town lead road fund. They give us monies to do paving to the town aid roads. Obviously, we saw a lot of the impact of that work done during this fiscal year and some of last fiscal year, but there's definitely some of the improvements to High Street and the other streets, Ryan, that you did. Freestone. William Street. Artist Springs
Hilltop, Perry.
and Dogwood.
Hilltop was done.
How about
Perry.
Perry?
Oh, and Perry was done. That's last year.
So you saw a lot of improvements there, and some of them were funded by Town Aid Road, some were funded by a municipal revenue sharing grant that's similar to Town Aid Road that we fund out 84. Some was funded by transfers and supplemental appropriation from capital. A lot of different sources going on, but in an effort to get a lot of repairs and a lot of paving done. That was some real nice improvements to the town. Page 127 is the resource recovery fund. So we've made some adjustments on the revenues to bring them more in line. One of the things we noted is in the bulky waste, we got to work toward getting some better containers with some better covers. It seems like we bring in bulky waste, but then by the time we transport it out, it becomes almost as heavy as when it came across the scale initially as we go out because of water weight and those type of factors. So we'll work toward getting some funding for that to do that. So we'll work toward that, but that's not in this budget, but that would hopefully improve either the revenue side a little bit, as well as hopefully improve the outlay more, because we see the revenue come in, but then we see the outlay being almost too high. And it seems like right now it's being thought to be attributable to what is going out is heavier than what comes in due to sitting with maybe out the best covering that we have. So they're going to work toward that goal. The transfer was more or less flattish in this fund, so that's decent. There was change in personnel. Some of the one of the longer term employees that went to the highway division. So there's a little bit of savings in the salary and a little bit of savings in medical based on what way they take their, just based on the type of insurance that they take. The other area where we increased was definitely in the service contracts, which that's one of those ones that's like a watch for the future. That's one of the major pieces of that is the grinding of the brush. So that's a item that we continually bid, but that's one of the ones that it just depends on the pile and the year and the vendors and what they come back with. But we're going up about 4,000 on that. that could swing in different ways based on if you really need to do double the amount, or if that pile becomes too big, or if vendors change, it could be substantially higher. So we're gonna watch that. Bags and stickers did increase that slightly. What we see here is that on the bags, the cost of the bags are high. At one point, the director was trying to get to a level to be able to get to a dollar value that could bid with another vendor. But that was we couldn't really get to that number. So hopefully we won't have to spend that number, but we put it in there just in case there is a need, and or if we're trying to build to that number that would be able to bid at a different threshold. Right now, we normally use a vendor called Waste Zero, kind of came up with the whole pay to throw system. That's when the vendor that more or less does that in the state. And that's kind of where we're at with that. Municipal MSW and bulky waste, the rate, we still have the current rate until 7/26. But as you see there, like you see an expense of 47 out, then you have 53 coming in on the bulky waste. We think that there's a heavy, because we don't have necessarily the proper covering, it's costing us money sending that out. Fund, page 130 is the building maintenance fund. This is a fund that's shared between the town and the board. We put in 41,000 each year. And things that are not in capital that are larger, deferred, either can be deferred maintenance costs, things that maybe have to flow through where you're getting insurance reimbursement, or just various things that are larger usually goes into these accounts. It's very valuable fund to have, and very valuable to have money in that fund. Page 132, we're going to the Parks and Rec division. So here there's been an increase in the transfer in this line item. This one's, since COVID, there's been a challenge to try to bring back the revenues to the levels. One of the main areas that you see where there's a challenge is in the summer playground fees. That one is really hard to get to that number. Then there's also it seems to be creeping in some of the other areas to getting some better revenues, but the program fees is a challenge. And there's also the continuation of the increase in minimum wage is hard. It's it keeps getting stepped up every usually it seems like every in December based on an inflationary factor. So that's a challenge, because there's various steps of employees in this group, and every time it seems like it changes the minimum wage, like 3 of the levels drop out, and then you have to bump them up. So it's a continual bumping of the categories because the rate keeps changing. So to try to generate some of these revenues, definitely need to see some of the increases in the teen recreation payroll. So you see those type of increases. The regular payroll is made up of the director, the clerical payroll is made up of the assistant. Temporary payroll is made up of the workers for the Kids Blast program. Overtime are custodians that come in, more or less that work the overtime for the schools. So when they run projects, where the schools are involved, the overtime for those custodians gets charged that to this fund, to this line item. If it's for something that's a town event that's not Park and Rec, then it gets charged into the 010 budget. The rest is just benefits for the personnel above. Contractual services is more or less their software that they have. equipment rental. A lot of that is related to the various porta potties and such that they have to rent throughout the year. Utilities are for the various utility sites that they have. It can fluctuate based on water and sewer is depending on the splash pad and or how many events are at the various locations, how much irrigation is getting used at the parks, the Route 17 park, all these various factors can play in. And then the remainder of the expenses are just expenses that are there for to either run the programs or to make purchases of equipment purchases that need to run the program and or the signage that they're putting up for some of the advertising that they put up there. All right. So next page is 135. So the capital plan has so the current year we have about $1,696,000 and $516 of capital expenditures. 970 of those are funded by the general fund, which 157 are related to the Board of Ed. Board of Ed is asking for that vehicle that's supposed to be a cost saver for transporting children. So far that's been a cost saver on the other two that they've acquired. Would assume that this one would be a good decision to save on transportation costs as well as get them while the vehicles while they're available. HVAC, numerous HVAC issues that arise. This is $105,000 for those. On the town side, it's 813,000 is the number. So we have building and planning department. There's a transportation plan, ADA. I guess there's this ADA plan that's potentially going to be required soon. And it may be required when we try to go get grants. So it's one of those ones that it's kind of better that we need to get ahead of this. We may already be behind it, but to at least meet the goal and the objective, obviously we want to be able to continue to win grants. It's an important part of our capital structure and improvement structure in the town. So the building department and the planning department can work on that over hopefully the next year or so. Fire department needs money for a hearse tool replacement. They've continued to come and spoke to us about communication issues and upgrading to the newer band radios. So this is a portion of it. There's a portion that will utilize some of the monies that are in the cell tower amount. And then there's the additional here that'll be needed to fund additional items here. They have requested $5,000 for an AED defibrillator. The grounds maintenance department, they've requested a F-550. It's a main line truck with a plow. The current ones, one of their current trucks, which may or may not be a 550, but one of their current trucks is about to have to come offline. So they wanted to replace that with this vehicle and then roll the other vehicle down to the one that's going to need to come, be replaced. So that they're replacing it with the vehicle of one of the ones that they need to use for the plowing, the proper vehicle that's new, and replace the older one that's failing with one of the older vehicles that are still usable. Library public copier. Years and years ago, we bought a copier for the library. It's for the public. They use it. The monies, I think they come from the proceeds go into Fund 82. So it's generates some funds for the library. It's well outlasted its useful life. It's got to be close to 10 years old, I think. So this is just the upgraded version of that machine and gets us to hopefully a functional machine now for another long while. Police department, we haven't purchased cruisers in a while now. So the cruisers we do with a police SUV, we equip it with a computer, we equip it with all the lights and all that kind of stuff. Roughly equipped car, we around 60,500. And that's so we have two of them here in this number. The traffic cameras, we set aside monies last year for the traffic cameras to get installed. When the pricing came in, there wasn't enough money for that system. So we're trying to set aside the additional 12,000 that's needed to get those up and running. Police procedures, Police Accountability Act, the policies and procedures, the Accountability Act continues to be, our requirements continue to be out there. We're trying to set some monies aside where if there needs to be consultants hired to develop policies and procedures, there will be money there available to do such, to move that process forward for the police department. Computer replacement, some of the laptops have an older version operating system. So we need to get some of those operating systems are phasing out where they don't have protection any longer. So we need to replace some more. So that would be 4 of the more or less the tough book laptops are in that number. Building maintenance, HVAC, just a lot of HVAC throughout the town. In the town hall, the wall units hit around somewhere, they can range from 4,000 to 6,000 depending on the size. And Buck Foreman building, they're usually probably hitting around 600 to 7,500 installed. So for their units, so just they're expensive. Some of them are getting aged, and we just try to set some money aside for some of the bigger ones. Try to do as many we could do in operating, but we can't when there's those larger ones that sit in the various buildings there. We would try to set some money aside for that. The fire system upgrades, this is more or less associated in the town clerk office. There is some improvements that should be made to the sprinkler heads. And that's monies that we are looking to set aside to make those improvements. Panic alarm systems, at the town hall, we do have some panic alarms in good conditions, and some of the other locations, we don't necessarily have the box set up in those. So there's some employees have made some requests of that. Our IT department has looked into those requests and, has come up with some of these funds that may be needed to get those systems that, at least implemented, at least if not two, if one, if not two. And then that's, they continue to work through those for at least a couple of our buildings. So we have the coverage at the town hall, other ones slightly maybe not. We may or may not. All right, DPW highway excavator attachments. We put money aside last year for this. We did not put enough in. We were hoping to take money from another project, finish it, move it in. The other project didn't complete it because that needed more money. So in this instance here, we're asking for more money in the excavator job, and then that's similar in the replaced dump body. So the dump body was coming in higher than expected through our through the quotes before even going out to bid. So we needed to put some more funds in there. DPW highway sidewalk reconstruction. This is really monies for it's the development or the it can be used for really anything related to sidewalks that are not in the grant portion. A lot of the grants, as I was saying, the design, the upfront money, it might give you $600,000 to do the actual sidewalk, but then they go, oh, by the way, you have to design it. So this is putting money aside generally for the design of these type of projects, and or if there's an overage of a project, or if there's just a direct short, small need of something that's needs a sidewalk replaced, that's what that funding would be for. We went over the dump body, townwide computers. The townwide computers, we continue to upgrade servers, computers throughout the town, through all the various departments. And also there's a cycle which we aren't at that for this year, where there's a backup appliances that are required. That's in that year, there's a big ask. That's usually in every 4-year window. And I think that in our capital plan, there's a number that you'll see that year. That's the year that those would be expiring. The revaluation, this is a reevaluation year coming up. We did have some money set aside from doing it properly through the years. And this is just my estimate of what we should put in play to make sure that we get through any of the legal ramifications that come after the completing of the project. Phone system replacements, town, this is likely going to be probably going to be at the high school medical complex, but we kind of somehow magically cover the phone systems for everyone here on the town side. We had increased it. We did the towns. I can't believe it, but I think it was close to like 9 years ago. And in that year, the high school middle school complex was the only part of it that wasn't done, and that was older. So the whole system, unfortunately, is aged out. They're all aged out. So this is the initial ask. This is the initial ask to get the project going. Hopefully at the high school middle school complex, see how that goes out and goes through. And then there's in the subsequent years, there will be at the town and other town buildings, because it doesn't appear to be anywhere near the pricing that we once had. That contractor is more or less retired, but it's just different technology now. And so the initial system appears to be more expensive. It's also been 10 or 12 years. So costs have definitely increased. Townwide security cameras, fire alarm system, kind of put that in as a catch-all title, but it's really, in this one, it's really sort of like cameras or any security issues. There's a few things that this could be definitely for. There's town hall has has some areas where there would be preferred to have cameras that they aren't there. The system that we do have is potentially aging, so we want to maybe look at that to see. There are also requirements that we have to look at, which we may have to fund out operations depending on timing, but to look at for the over the election box, there's a requirement where we have cameras over the election box in an appropriate manner and store it. The system we have now doesn't store it long enough for what they want. So that's why those funds have been set aside. That's been a request for numerous years from various either selectmen and or the department heads. So try to fund that. Put in 96,516 for LoSiP. We're trying to work on the brownstone, or this is Buck Foreman. We're trying to work on the Buck Foreman improvement. We thought we had a quote system through one of our processes, easy at QC. Seems like maybe or maybe not, they didn't really want to do that work possibly. So looking at it through a different style vendor, or more geared toward this type of work through I think it was the state trade labor contracts. And when we do that, the dollar values were a little higher than we had anticipated. So we're trying to get at least have the funding in place. The biggest issue that occurs with LoSiP is they've changed the methodology now. They used to be, you'd go in, you'd ask for it. So we do have some of that money left over. We have to go ask and get them to approve that. So we're working towards someone getting those projects, but they've now then kind of changed it where they give you an allotment, but that allotment doesn't come available till like March or April. They give you the money right around there. And then you gotta run the project, but you still have to follow all the rules that where they required you to get coverage before. We're trying to work through the change in the way it was done to the change of the new way to getting some of these projects completed or move forward. So making sure there are numerous masonry improvements that the public structure has identified. So this would be the place to, let's put the money in for this cycle, go in there where we can get some of these projects completed with some of the money that we'd already had as well. And then park improvements, I think this was, these are monies that they put aside where Andy Dion and his crew try to run specific projects to, improve the parks. The next few pages are just showing the actual flow of these transactions. The areas that I didn't touch upon were the page 141. And that was the sewer department and the water department. That would be so we put like I said, we put 380,000 in of the sewer money. So you saw that in the sewer come out. 360,000 of that will go into plant and system improvements. 20,000 will keep going toward working toward having a SCADA system for the sewer. Then jumping down for the water, we have 90,000 going into facility and system upgrades. 10,000 on the storage tank. So we already have some money set aside. Trying to set more as we think that it's possible we didn't have enough. Galvanized lines, trying to start putting some money aside for that. That could and will likely be a substantial requirement. That one, if you need more information, would you want to talk about that, Ryan? A little bit? Yeah. So we'll have him come up in a minute on that. Replace mainline valves, $20,000. Those are usually we have a contractor come in and do that with our team, and usually it's gets you maybe one or two based on that dollar value. Remote readers, we continue to change out our reading the meters themselves, and then the reservoir dam, put some more money into that. That's definitely, those improvements are required. It's been a challenge to get people to bid on that. There's been some issues with the timing of how high the water levels are and whether things had to be pumped out to see some of the repairs. So that one, that was what we were trying to work on that with, again, using the trade labor agreement. So far that hasn't worked out so great. So I know the director is working on that but I think he needs to get some more funds in hand. Then, just 5,000 for replacement fire hydrants.
Tom, do you know what our balance is for the dam repairs if we add this to it?
I'll have that one go.
Okay. I'll wait for you to come up then.
Thanks, Tom.
Right. How are you guys? Still hanging around.
Like that.
So, your most recent question for balance on the dam repairs. We have 61,383 right now. And we'd be putting in 45, so it'd be 105. Roughly. 105,383. And the quote we got last year, I did have Hemlock Construction quote up repairs down there. The issue becomes you want to hit this in the summer when it's dry, and you got to pump out. There's a like a settling basin at the bottom of the spillway that slows the water down before it goes down the brook, and you got to pump that out to inspect all the joints And that's your access to the spillway to hammer, the joints and make sure everything is sound. And you got to set up like a diversion, a siphon with all the reservoir to keep the water flowing so you don't end up getting flooded out while you got all your ladders and scaffolding set up to do the inspection work. So you got to pump down the reservoir either by opening a hydrant or setting up a big pump similar to like the one that was at Job's Pond. So you're pumping out a lot of water, and then set up the siphon, keep it going, do the inspection. Then we had a guess as to how many linear feet of joint work, and we didn't want to underestimate. So we put a decent number to it. It was like 150 feet of joint. And then some concrete repairs if there was any spalled areas or anything anywhere on sound, they could chip it out and patch that up. And it was somewhere in the ballpark of 100 grand just to get that going. And we only had 60 something. So it was just a little more work to just inspect and figure out what we need to do there. So we weren't able to move forward, and hopefully with this we can, we'll have to reach out to other vendors too and see who else, any other masonry kind of companies that can set up for this kind of work. See if we get some quotes.
So this would put us at the minimum without finding anything worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Visually, it looks pretty good out there, but without pumping out that basin, you don't really know what's at the bottom there. We know there are large rocks and whatnot. We did some clearing over there. So you could look into the water and you see there's debris in there and stuff at the bottom just from probably overflow over the spillway. What was the other one we were going to
The
talk about?
the
Galvanized service lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in November of 24, we completed an inventory list for lead service lines. We don't have any actual lead service lines, but what we did use in town were lead goosenecks connected to galvanized service lines. And the way the EPA categorizes that is basically that's a lead service line because of the corrosion on the lead gooseneck, and then the galvanizing downstream basically would build up like a lead corrosion in the pipe over a long period of time. Portland has been working on getting rid of these lines since World War II. There were, over 1,000 of them. We're down to about 120 is what I counted. It may be less when we go and actually dig some of these up. They might be replaced, but going by what we had on our records, that's the rough number to start with. So the 55,000, we're hoping we could start tackling some of the ones on Main Street with that funding. We already did 2 this past winter, one at 285, the other one at 540. So yeah, we'll keep trying, and they're about 10,000 each, and that's just piecemealing it. So maybe if we do, like a $50,000 package, maybe we could get like 6 or 7 instead of 5. The more you give a contractor, the more you can get back from it. So we'll see. It's a start. It at least gets us going. And then hopefully the town crews can start tackling some of the ones on the town roads and start chipping away at it.
What's the town cost for us to do it like on a side road?
The material is probably about $2,000. And then, our town labor costs. So, I mean, it's already getting paid for.
I was gonna say the labor's already paid for. It's not overtime.
Yeah.
So
Could be
roughly-
higher if we're going through like sidewalks and things like
Mhm.
that and having to replace curbs and sidewalks.
Yeah.
So probably between like $2,000 and $4,000. I would
So this
say.
would be a full replacement from the water main to the meter in the house.
No, it would be up to the curb box.
Okay.
So it'd be a whole new valve and everything at the curb box, reconnect. And then the way the regulations are set up, the homeowner owns the remainder. the remaining portion. They would have to get notified. If we do see when we dig it up and connect to it, if it's still galvanized, we would have to notify them that it's still there.
Okay. But then that's their responsibility from there on.
Yeah, because technically without permission, we really can't go work on private property unless it's some kind of emergency. So that's just not a normal thing to go
Mhm.
dig up someone's yard.
Well, Ryan, I know you said that we're looking at, maybe a $50,000 package will get us 6 or 7 of these on the state roads, right, where we need to go with the contractor. How many of these do we have on state roads that we have to worry about?
So Main Street has about 60 and Marlboro has about between 5 and 10. So
Okay.
65, 70.
So at that pace, that would put us, on like an 11-year pace.
Yeah, so we'll have to do more in the coming years.
And that's kind of where I was going. I think that from what I've been hearing, DOT wants to do work on Main Street. So if we want to be able to dig it up and do what we need to do with these, we might have to figure out how we can do them a little bit more aggressively. So that we're not, we don't want DOT to go and repave or. do a bunch- Yeah,
If they know this is outstanding, they won't repave.
no, they won't, but at the same time, I also don't know if they'll be too thrilled with waiting,
Yeah.
right, 10 years.
Yeah, we were hoping we could get this done in like 4 years on Main Street. But we would need probably to up this number and with the revenues and everything going on with water right now, it's we're scratching, we can't really subtract out of a lot of these line items, the dam repairs, they're all critical, the facility repairs, the upgrades. We still have projects coming in for High Street, one project at least for this year that's out to bid right now. And then potentially another grant coming in to continue down High Street towards William Street and possibly further. So if those projects overrun, you need a balance. When you got big projects like that going on, 600, the other one's 1.2 million, you're gonna need that contingency too.
Shows you how important it is for us to get our cost model changed.
Anything else while
Any other questions while he's up there?
Oh. We saw that in, for the library, that there was no mention in like future capital for roof replacement. Is that anywhere on your radar? Cause I thought people have talked before about, leaks in the library roof.
Yeah, so there has been some leaks. You could go into the library up in the front. You look up to the right, you'll see like 4 or 5 different stains. Right around the corner by the bathrooms, there's a stain there. Building maintenance crew has done a pretty good job patching up the roof for what joints we think were leaking. But the asphalt roof, and this roof was put in like 2011. It should be in good shape, but I guess the exposure to the sun and the elements possibly, there's some cracking that's visible when you walk around up there. So it is unfortunate. And roof replacements, there are future line items in the building maintenance capital. You'll see there's like 100,000 for next year, the year after that, 50/50.
What page is that?
This would be on page 140. We'll see when the town hall roof gets done. I mean, I think there's a balance in that line item, but the town hall is being worked on right now. Maybe there's going to be some kind of small balance and maybe we can hire someone to at least, go patch the roof up in any trouble spots. Would be what I recommend right now.
Well, especially if the roof's only 14 years old.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
That's like half of what you would expect.
Yeah, so there was a 10-year warranty on the roof. And most of these issues showed up right after that. I had reached out in 23 or 24 to the vendor, just to, point it out to him and say, hey, like, why is this thing falling apart? 2 years out of warranty. He basically just stopped responding to me. So won't use them again. At least if anyone remembers not to use them, which I gotta just relay that.
Anybody else? Why don't you hang just a little bit? See if anyone else comes with a question or not.
Yeah, no problem.
Great, thank you very much.
I do know, Mike, that John did join, so
Oh, we did, oh, good.
yes. We had a little challenge getting on, but he's on.
There you go.
Sharon, did you get that? That John Dillon, did join? No, he's been on for quite a while, but we didn't want to interrupt the flow with him. Okay.
Can I ask one quick question too for Ryan? With the road aid fund, do we plan on most of that going towards paving or chip sealing this year?
If you could come up here.
It's to be determined, but
I'm just asking, I've been asked by a few people because I know we haven't done chip sealing a lot in the past few years because we've been paving so many roads.
yeah, so we actually did chip sealing and paving last year. We did chip seal a lot of roads, including most of Bartlett Street. And then a whole bunch of side roads, up in the Edgewood neighborhood. That whole neighborhood was done. I think Bell Court, right down Main Street. I think we did both sides of Main Street actually. And then we did a decent amount of paving last year. But it is in discussion. Mike and myself have been talking about, what should be the priority this year. And I think we're leaning towards, there's issues with the chip seal contract, the state contract that's usually used. And they didn't renew the CROG contract that we used last year to hire them. So with those issues and with, the priority probably being to move to pave a lot of these roads instead of continuing to chip seal in roads that are riding really rough. We probably want to do some milling and paving, possibly exploring the option of hiring someone to mill and maybe town crew doing some paving, depending how big of a project it is and how many other things are going on. But we're looking into both. Is really did you have a road specific in mind, or
No, it's just, I think with people, with us paving William Street and High Street and Freestone's paved, those are, main roads for people to drive on all the time, where all the neighborhoods you mentioned are off of Main Street. So most people didn't see that any chip sealing got done because they don't drive through side neighborhoods.
oh yeah, yep.
So that was all.
Yeah, the only main road was Bartlett from Main to the intersection of 17 got done. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, so we did most of the things. I will go over, I'll go back on page 5 and just go over some of the revenue lines just to touch upon them. So the top parts are taxation lines. The educational cost sharing that went up based upon the estimates from the state. That's again, if the state changes that, it will change. But that's what that is. Similar with the tiered state property tiered. That's estimate from the state. Pequot, Mohegan estimate from the state. The disabled tax relief is more like a guesstimate from what Rich gives me for information. Emergency management is our FEMA. That's the grant that's kind of the offset to emergency management. I think it's a 024 budget. There's some monies that come in on that. Veterans exemption is a ballpark estimate. Municipal transition grant, that was what the state told us that was. That should be more or less from car taxes. They were making, or not car tax, but municipal spending cap tax. The other state monies or monies that come in through like it's a dial-a-ride project more or less. Interest is a tricky one. That's what we're estimating on. We're using assuming maybe around a 3% return. Well, also there's less, there should in theory be less money as we're spending down the ARPA money. So for a few years there, we had a nice little bit of money there that had come in and we were able to generate revenues from that money. But as some of these projects are getting done and as some of the when the fire truck comes in and things like that, we'll have to pay those monies out and that won't be replenished. So that'll be a little drop as well in there. So that's kind of what we're going on that number. The housing authority pays a pilot to us. The pilot telecommunications is usually what Frontier pays us for their property. That one just recently came out. I think maybe last week or so, an email. So I'll have to double check that to see. Hopefully we're in the range. Property rental is more or less made up of the Brownsville Exploration Park payments, the amount we get from Oak Hill, the amount we're expected to get on that the lease of the parking space next to the I guess near the sewer plant there, and then also monies that we get for the rental out of the schools. So that's kind of what the property rental number is for. When you jump into the 312s, that's your areas for your town clerk, conveyance, vital statistics, recording, miscellaneous town clerk. 324, this is a police private duty number. So we have a correspondingly revenue number, we have a corresponding expense number in the budget. Structural permits 327, 328. This one you will see drop back down again. Before the two big projects that have recently come in, we were even under this 225 number for a while. So we're optimistically hoping that we're going to hit this 225 number. But we'll have to see as some of these other, the Brainerd fees have already come in, and some of the other the bigger projects fees have come in. So this is what we were told from our building department to expect. So we put those down there. The miscellaneous number, that's kind of, sometimes we'll get monies from Kerma. When they do if they have a good year, they'll give money back to us. So we generally try to estimate maybe roughly $20,000 of that, and other miscellaneous revenues that we might get. So just wanted to touch on those, and give you an update of where those are coming from. Otherwise, I think we've gone through everything.
Any questions for Tom after 2 days of this?
No. Thank you as always.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate all the help. A lot of work went into this.
Next week we get started the deliberations, and you guys get to listen.
There you go. There you go.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Tom. We really appreciate it. So, is that? Yeah, I don't think so either. So before we get to closing up the meeting, I see a number of department heads here. And Selectmen, if you have any questions specifically for the heads there in the budget book now, I'd like to try to get it done tonight if you can. I feel pretty comfortable with the answers we've had so far. But that way tomorrow night, instead of continuing this, we can get to our regular meeting. We have a lot to discuss as well. But if everyone could kind of take a couple minutes, take a look and see if there's any questions. And if you need answers from any of the ladies and gentlemen here, we can go from there. Andy? Yeah, I'll start with just a couple questions for you. By the way, thanks everyone for your patience watching all this process go through. So two questions for you.
Sure.
If you can tell me some of the headwinds you've had. I know Tom's talked about those in terms of coming back, and what are some of the opportunities in terms of additional programs? I know you've had other programs that have been bigger that can jack up the revenue.
Sure. I think one of the positive things I want to highlight is the Kids Last After School program.
What page?
What page? Parks and Rec. That would be 132. So as Tom mentioned, we've been having trouble since COVID, kind of getting registration numbers back up, bringing in revenue. Kids Blast 2 years ago was negative. Last fiscal year, was positive 1,000. Right now, at the fiscal year ended today, we'd be positive just about 19,000. Of course, that's not accounting for expenses. So with my estimates here, I think we'd be positive about $12,000 by the end of April. Like I said, we were positive just 1,000 last fiscal year. Before that, we were negative. Also, with our 5K, we doubled not revenue, we doubled net profit in this current fiscal year from about 2,000 to 4,000. A lot of the great things are going on, I think, in Parks and Rec. Youth programs right now is up 20,000. And that's not including any of the money we're going to see from CT Flag. Their season starting soon. We have a partnership with them similar to Skyhawks, where essentially we have a contract, they're an independent contractor with us, and we get a portion of their revenue. So, it's been kind of a long road post-COVID, but I think we're in great shape, honestly. I'm happy to answer any specific questions as well that you might have.
I know, I may have asked you this before as well. I know Unified Sports used to be under Parks and
It
Rec,
did.
went to the schools. Is that a program that you think would make sense bringing back, or is that something that?
I'm not quite sure. I talked to the old director, Sean Dwyer, about it. He mentioned that it got shifted to the Board of Ed just because all the great volunteers he had when the program initially started weren't available. I talked to Sarah from the Board of Ed about it recently too. She mentioned that Matt Fox over at Biz is doing a great job with Unified Sports with that age group. And, town-wide, not like, town versus Board of Ed, it's like globally for the whole town. I think she thought maybe transportation, getting kids from Valley View or Gildersleeve down to Biz would be the best scenario. I don't know if Parks and Rec can help with that necessarily, but she did mention that Matt Fox is doing a great job at Biz with what he has for those five, fifth and sixth graders. It's possible. I know one of the main challenges that we have is the payroll for the teen rec payroll, which is the summer camp staff and other things like that. I don't necessarily know if we're going to have money to pay folks to run a different program out of that line item.
Anything else? Right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any questions for the library?
She left. That's what a question for. Mike, you want to text Sarah? I have a question for her. Yeah. How long you running there?
It's gonna run for a minute.
Well, we can ask them. Yeah. That you're used to. Deliberation.
Michael, have a question, Sandy?
Which Michael? Did he have another one tomorrow? You just assume it's you. There's one sitting behind you.
It's me. He's looking at me.
Yeah. I think we had 3 storms that required your folks to get out there and plow and all that. What would be your estimate of the cost of those 3 storms?
In material,
material and labor for that. I believe what, 2 of them hit over the weekend.
who were. It was a Sunday and a Monday.
Mhm.
Ryan would have the figures for
Yeah.
labor.
One was
You
a
know.
holiday.
What was the holiday? Yeah, the Monday. So it's all double time.
Okay.
Ryan's got the labor numbers.
Yeah, just for the 3 storms we had.
It was probably about 150 ton treated salt at 74 and change, I think it is.
72 or 74.
Got it. And then overtime people costs another 20 grand, 30 grand.
Yeah, Ryan's
Give
got
you an
those
idea.
numbers.
How are we for a stockpile right now for?
We got a half a shed. About 700 tons. We could use more.
And we don't have much of this year's budget left.
No, I
There's
don't.
nothing.
Okay.
Due to the ice,
Mhm.
the last year we had a full shed before we started,
Mhm.
so. We got a half a shed,
Is that enough to go into a new season?
yes.
So the half shed you have now is from
This year,
last year? Or
From
did you
this
get,
year.
did you get salt in?
yes, 900 ton
Okay.
and 3,000 gallons of liquid. That we spray the salt with.
How the potholes look this year?
Not bad.
Last year was terrible.
Yeah, we're on it again today. Do 4 ton a day. So we have a list as soon as they come in, we try to hit them. As they come in. But we're ready for next year. Snow wise.
All right, thank you.
Oh, well, either one of you. How close or how fast would we get the excavator attachment and dump body?
The excavator attachment should be pretty quick. I think the dump body probably is 2 or 3 months, I would say, would be a safe estimate.
So it'd be
Um,
ready for the winter season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as we hit the ground running, which we should. We got the bid documents all set up. If we want to go that route, yeah, the only other route would be to waive it, but waive the bid, but that's probably to be determined.
Okay.
You know, how much of a rush we're in to get that done. I do have some of the figures on the snow removal. I don't know if anyone's looked through the numbers in the system, but at the beginning of so February 1st, when I was doing the budget, I printed out the report on that account, and we still had $42,000 available. And then March 16th, so the other day, we're negative 28,000. So February overall was a lot of money. Just
Cause it was all Sundays and holiday.
yeah, yeah. And there was, you know, in between the big snowstorms, there was ice events and
Mhm.
freezing temperatures at night, thawing during the day. So you always got to bring someone in to salt the roads when you got things like that happening. And everything, as everyone knows, it was an ice block for like a month.
Yeah.
So didn't go away.
All right, thank you. You got a question for
Sarah.
Sarah?
Just when you thought you were out. As soon as you walked out
As
the
soon
door.
as you walk out.
My question is about the van driver stipend.
Are we turning anyone away or would we be able to schedule more rides?
Yes, we're turning people away every day. We
Okay.
fill up a lot. There's a huge need. I know.
Are we
have-
turning them away because they're busy or we're turning them away because we're running out of money?
We're turning them away because we're running out of money. There's not, enough funds in the budget to pay the drivers.
All right.
So we're doing approximately 12, sometimes a few more a week if they're, cases where they're an emergency or someone really needs to get in. And then we'll juggle the schedule for the following week. So we stick around 12 a week.
Okay. What, and I won't hold you to it, but what would you like to see as a number, like a percentage increase?
An overall number, I would say, percentage wise, I'm not quite sure. I wasn't prepared to answer that
Okay.
question, but I could get back to you with that, but
Yeah, because we have next week is deliberations, so that's just one of the things I was looking at, because there's not a lot that we offer to the seniors besides the senior center and the rides that we give them for the ones that can't drive anymore.
right. Right, and it's only increasing the amount of people that need those
Mhm.
rides. And they are all medical rides. That doesn't include any social piece or, going and picking up anybody who's homebound
Mhm.
that can't get to the senior center. That would be a nice option in the future. So I can put some numbers together for you and include that if you're interested, or
Okay,
I'm not sure if you're just wondering about medical rides only.
I'd like to hear about all of it.
Great, okay. I can put something together for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I agree with you too, if there's more need there, and we can do it.
Yeah.
It's money worth spent.
Mhm.
So, thank you.
Any other questions?
How's the kitchen working out?
Wonderful.
Full use?
Great, yeah.
Is that Nate back there? Just quick question for you.
See what that number would be.
Just a general question on the Route 17 part.
Yes.
I've been asked a couple times over the last year. How much extra work did that take for you guys to handle that part? Like, what was the additional cost, time, effort to fit into your schedule?
That's a loaded question because we all touch on it at different times. We have our the 5910, the Toro that mows athletic fields and general lawn, that's there twice a week, mowing for about 2 hours each time. Then he'll go in another time at a different height of cut to mow the majority of the general lawn. That's probably an hour and a half. 4 of us can go in there and trim in what he doesn't get, blow everything off, and that's about an hour and a half, 2 hours, depends how wet it is. We usually have to go first thing in the morning. You don't want to wake people up, but you also want to get there before it's crazy and there's little kids everywhere. The splash pad, when that's open, I'm there once or twice a day, just kind of making sure things are going. Irrigation, I'm there every single morning because that irrigation system is extremely finicky. It's been finicky since day one. So I'm there every morning. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. It could be 4 o'clock in the morning. So we don't generally run it on the weekends because I do like to sleep in. Man hours, you're probably looking at with everything that goes on, plus the athletic fields being painted, the athletic fields being dragged a few times a week, 20 hours a week, 24 hours a week. You also have the rough cut, which we've kind of gotten down. We do it once a year because of trying to promote the pollinators. It's a lot. There's someone there for a substantial amount of time every single day. So, but it's worth it because that park is the most utilized park in this town. It's wonderful. I can't say enough about it.
It's interesting to note that many of the people that didn't really like the park are there the most. So I like that.
Yeah.
It's drawing them in. And I really ask that not as much to pin you down to a number, but it seems like you've been able to do that with the crew that you have and still be able to maintain the rest of what you do. It's just park looks great. it's being used a great deal. I just didn't know how much effort it took.
We were very lucky that you guys gave us a fourth on the town side, full-time employee. We had taken over the park for a couple of years. So everything's new. Everything's much easier to take care of. You've got the rhythm. Now you're into it a few years and things just, they require more maintenance. And it just, everything, perfect storm. We've got an extra person that can help out and you're trying to try just different things, add things, it's worked out. So, I mean, it hats off to the way the town managed it to help me with the crew.
Well, the town appreciates all the work that you guys do out there.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank
All
you very
right,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
I did have one question about fire truck, the one that's on order. When it should be in. So I know it's been delayed. I don't know if that affects the budget in terms of, have we prepaid for everything? What's the situation on when the truck will be in?
You have to pay the fine.
Okay. What do you? You've been voluntold.
By the chairman of the apparatus. Yeah, obviously you guys all know me, Ray Sajak, fire marshal, but I help out with the apparatus committee stuff. So I spoke with our salesman a couple weeks ago and trying to get an idea when we could be getting the truck. We were told it would probably be between April and August. And he told me that we weren't going to probably see it till the winter. So with that, obviously I advised the committee, the captain, the chief, and told them that what we're looking at, it's probably the worst case scenario to get a new truck to train on, right, in the winter. So I crafted a polite email to him to forward to the company to see where this gets us. Because I was concerned about, number one, it was being stored outside. Now, have you that the truck, so with this being said, this is not a single service or single source manufacturer. So the cab and chassis are built by one manufacturer who's probably one of the leaders in the industry. And then it goes to the manufacturer who's going to put the body together and then mount it and equip the rest of the stuff. So it's been there since December. So we had pictures of that. And then I questioned if it was still outside. And I was sent the pictures a week ago showing that it was inside at least. What's that?
For the picture.
For the picture, yes. So, but anyway, so, my concerns were, obviously, they're not meeting the contract. Our contract was 690 or 720. And, but with today's conditions and market, you can't hold anybody liable for any contract violation. They're going to claim it's material, labor, that kind of stuff. So, the email I had crafted, I had asked maybe, are they going to be able to extend our warranty for a year? Something like that. And actually have us go out and inspect that truck because we didn't plan on inspecting it because we just thought it would get delivered in a timely manner and start manufacturing in a timely manner. Now, obviously, it's not happening. So I had asked that they send at least 2 people out to inspect it and approve it before they start building on it. So, but getting back to the finance part of it, we had worked with Tom in the beginning on this whole thing, and with the bank rates right now, we were making more money sitting on the money gaining interest than we would have getting any discounts for prepaying. So that's the avenue we chose. So I think it was the right one. Unfortunately, a lot of industry is, and he was telling me that their one specific manufacturer is having a hard time. They're in Wisconsin. They've lost a lot of their older talent, newer talent. They're training not as quick as obviously the old ones, and they are concerned about quality. They're really not pushing this too much. So I'm waiting for a response. Unfortunately, my email I sent to everybody got kicked back, so I hope you did get it again. So, but anyway, so that's kind of where we stand. unfortunately. So we should have it, I'm hoping earlier than the winter, but, that's what they're telling us right now. So. All right.
Right, is the money put aside for the truck?
Yeah, Ty, that's what Tom's got that and whatever, yeah. It's the ARPA, that was ARPA funding that we got approved for that purchase, so. And the timeline for that still is okay. I think as long as it's encumbered, you have to 26. I think December 31st to 26, so we're okay with that. Hopefully it's no later than 25. But anyway, that's where we stand. So,
I got a question that's same thing, it's
Yeah.
not budget related.
yeah.
We talked about when this engine comes in to save the existing engine two as a spare.
Yeah.
Is that still our plan based on the condition?
I think that's what the chief, that's what he's planning on, just to have that spare, and not
Because
having that
we saw it when
situation.
engine three failed and
Yeah.
we had no spare.
And thank God for East Hampton, so, that's up to them again, obviously. But yeah, the only problem with that's gonna be is if it is a company three matter, that truck won't fit in that building, but, that's the only.
Is there any significant repair engine two would need to keep it?
No, I don't.
I mean, it runs, it drives, it pumps.
The only thing about an aging apparatus that's older and it sits longer and it's not being used, she gets older quicker.
Yeah.
But, these guys can work it out on drill nights and keep doing some stuff with it, I'm sure, but,
Okay.
I don't think, I mean, as much as there's a market for used apparatus, I'm not so sure that what you would get in return would be enough value for you guys to, take that off rather than keeping it for a spare. So, unless something catastrophic would happen.
Here's my next question.
Yeah.
How old is our ladder? Is it going on 15 years?
18,
18?
06.
Is it
Well, actually, so
better
it's,
for us to refurbish what we have than look at purchasing a new one in the next few years with the way that prices are?
so
And
my.
we're in very good condition.
We are very, I mean, that is the top of the line ladder truck that we did, back in 06, right? 06, right? 06 or, no, it was 06. And so you got to keep in mind, as much as like the one development that would be a problem for us with that piece of apparatus is obviously something like Brainerd Place.
Mhm.
You get a larger building. However, our probabilities of fires in that building and use of that kind of device is lesser than it would be in a residential, application. A residential fire where we can pull this thing into the driveway and have its capability. So this is more user friendly for the 80%, 90% of the calls that we go to for a structural alarm than it would be for that 10, 20% for a Brainerd Place, which Middletown would be, on their en route with their ladder truck anyway. So I think that, that's gonna be really a good, question to bring up, that when this does happen, that, what do we do with it? I see it being in the industry that we're starting to see a lot of more of these departments are actually going to refurbing, you have to catch it early enough, obviously.
Well, that's why I'm asking now.
Yeah, and
before it hits
that's
20
good.
years.
I mean, I think we're in very good condition with that, but I think that as soon as we see an improvement with turnaround times, maybe, we look at that in a couple, 3 years, because you are talking about the loss of that piece for probably 90 to 160 days, right? So that would be the only downfall of the refurbishment, but that is a, frontline piece that should last many more years. And as long as it's done right, and that would more likely require you to bring it to the actual manufacturer, so that's Pierce. You usually seen a lot of these refurbs are gonna go to the people who built it.
What would refurbishing, what would it extend its life? 5 years, 10 years?
Oh, I bet with that, you could probably get 10 years. It all would depend on the ladder qualifications,
Mhm.
and then qualifying it yearly, but I can't see why you wouldn't. I mean, like I said, that piece fits us better than it would a 100-foot stick. I mean, the chief can, answer that as well, but, that's what I would think, you're talking, even if it was 500,000, which I think would be an awful lot for that, because it's not like you're gonna change out the ladder. You're just gonna service the ladder. You would paint the body, check the the underside, make sure the undercarriage is good. We just did one in Bethlehem right now with for a pumper, and that's being done by the manufacturer, service center in Woods Locks. So they didn't take it off the frame and it is actually pretty good. They took the tank out and stuff like that, but, and the biggest thing with that is just, it's the preventive maintenance, you know, we should like, I think Michael and the DPW are using fluid films and stuff like that, but we gotta start, I think, doing that with the fire apparatus. I think we gotta get them in. I don't know that if we have. So that's something that we should start, you know, looking into and probably doing it just to get that. Yeah, I'm not sure if we do, like I said.
I thought we were told a couple years ago that we were doing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
We haven't done it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and with the amount of times that they're out, you probably wouldn't have to do it annually, but you may want them looked at, you know, that kind of thing. I know we were looking at trying to do some kind of facility with the underwash and stuff like that, but I don't know where we got with that.
Nowhere.
Yeah. I'm just saying, so that's something I think, you know, that's what you have to look at today's age with those salts that they're using today. The chemicals are just so corrosive that, you know, when you're talking, you know, $1 million fire truck and a $500,000 dump truck, you know, it's, you know, you got to start really spending some money on preventing, you know, that corrosion and whether it's the fluid film, you know, the problem is you can't get into the extensive rinse, I think, Michael, right? Because of the, you just take the fluid film off, right? So,
You just don't wanna use hot water.
right.
Yeah, because it melts it away.
Yeah. So I just think if we're not doing it, I would highly recommend that we start looking at that, you know, get that done in, you know, September, October.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see a good return on that. And so that would be the biggest part of that refurb would be the body work and stuff like that. So that truck's in really good shape. I mean, it goes out more than people think because obviously in a structural event, that'll go sometimes before even the engine. Just because it's so more universal.
Yeah.
And it can get in a lot of places. That's why we want the 75-foot ladder. Not the
Does that have 1,000 gallons on it?
No,
750?
nope. 500.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't with a single axle like that and that ladder, you really can't get anything outside of that that amount of water.
All the mechanics take up too much space.
Yeah, and the tank, once you put that big tank on there, so. But yeah, so I think that's something we would definitely look into for that piece. It's probably, I think it's a better investment. You know,
Because what would new cost?
so if we're looking at now for that 75-foot today, so where I retired from Bristol, just got a ladder without a tank or a pump. It was 1.4 million, 100-foot ladder. So you throw a pump and a tank on that, you're at 1.8 to 2 million.
So it's not our best.
At 100-foot, so you're probably looking at 1.5, 1.6 on the 75. So I think, you know, a $500,000 would be a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, with the condition of it, I think it's probably, hopefully, if we continue down this road the way we take care of it, we should be fine. So.
Right.
Anybody else? Well, we'll let you know when it comes in. Trust me, I'm just as anxious.
Thank you.
All right, I have no more questions, of any of the folks that are here. Anybody else?
I'm good.
If that's the case, then I think we are officially done with our department budget workshops. So before we motion to adjourn, tomorrow night will be a regular Board of Selectmen meeting at 7 o'clock. The agenda should be out there. We'll see all of the gentlemen tomorrow. I'd like a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.